Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Katie Hosting and I'm here with Dr. Anna Stanhewicz to learn about the Microvascular Physiology Lab at the University of Iowa. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you.
The first question is, can you just provide an overview of the lab?
Sure. So in the Microvascular Physiology Lab, we're interested in understanding the mechanisms that control how the smallest blood vessels in our body operate. So we utilize a technique where we can assess the very small blood vessels that are located in your skin as a representative model for what's happening with other small blood vessels that are deeper in your body and might be harder to assess relatively non-invasively. So we recruit human subjects into the lab and we study how their blood vessels or the blood vessels in their skin are working. And we're interested in understanding why certain populations or certain individuals with cardiovascular disease risk factors are more likely to go on to develop cardiovascular disease. So for example, right now in the lab, we are studying women with a history of hypertensive pregnancy. And we're interested in what it is about the pregnancy that leads to this accelerated incidence of cardiovascular disease later in life. So our goal is to understand what's changed at the level of the tiniest blood vessels, and more importantly, what can we do about those changes to help slow or prevent the progression of disease in those individuals.
That sounds great. I think you briefly touched on this, but what kind of projects or research studies are you currently doing in the lab or in the future?
Yeah, so currently in the lab, we are interested in studying women with a history of pregnancy complications. We know that a lot of pregnancy complications arise during the pregnancy and then resolve postpartum, but they set these women on an accelerated trajectory for the incidence of cardiovascular disease. So specifically in the lab, we have projects studying women with a history of preeclampsia. Preeclampsia is new onset high blood pressure accompanied by other symptoms of organ dysfunction during the pregnancy. And those symptoms go away after the baby is born. Mother seems to be apparently healthy again, but we now know that mom is much more likely to develop cardiovascular disease. So we're interested in understanding why that is. We also have a small pilot project looking at similar things in women with a history of gestational diabetes, because similarly, women with a history of gestational diabetes are also more likely to go on to develop metabolic or cardiovascular disease later in life. So we want to know how we can prevent that from happening.
Great. And so what kind of opportunities would students have in your lab?
Yeah, so students who come into the lab have lots of opportunities to be involved in human subjects research. We accept undergraduates and then master's and PhD students as well who are interested in understanding about research methods, about working with human research participants, and specifically in understanding cardiovascular physiology and cardiovascular disease progression. So undergraduates who are interested in working in the lab can volunteer, they can do independent study, they can do honors in the major, and they have opportunities to come in, see the research being done, participate in data collections by assisting with the research techniques, and getting the opportunity to interact with human subjects in a laboratory setting.
Awesome. Well, those are all the questions that I have for today. Thank you for this.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yes.